After a disappointing draw against Spurs at St James's Park, can Newcastle United pick up the points against Burnley this Saturday again at St James's Park? Find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Schär
All right, folks. How are you all doing? I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, do let me know in the chats where you guys are listening from, what you guys where you guys are listening from, and what you guys are up to right now. As for me, guys, we're going to have a fantastic show. We're going to be doing a review of the Spurs game, then previewing the game against Burnley this Saturday, 3 p.m. And hopefully, if we've got a little bit of time at the end, we're going to talk about some transfer rumors and everything else as a way of kind of gearing us up and getting us warm for the transfer window that's due this January, because the transfer rumors are beginning to buzz for sure. But as always, folks, always a blessing to see you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you do let me know in the chat where you guys are coming from, where you guys are listening from. Let me know what are your thoughts on the Spurs game. Let me begin. Let's just begin with the Spurs game, as we were going to say review. I'm going to start with kind of give an overall look on the stats themselves. Let me show you this. How do I get this on? Is it this one? No, it's not that one. That's me. Remove this, share it, now add it to stage. All right, so my overall take for the game, I felt that we had real we deserve to win the game. Whatever that means to folks. But I feel like we deserved to win the game based on the kind of metrics that we had. Obviously, the most important metrics is the ones you guys can see on the screen right now are the goals metrics, and that was 2-2. But I felt that we had a really good performance, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to also talk about possibly what perhaps led us up to losing the game. Obviously, the goals themselves that Spurs scored, two shots on target, 2 goals scored, for me are quite, unfortunate for us, unfortunate for Tottenham. But there are maybe a couple things that led up to it that led up to those goals that we can talk about. Good evening, Aaron. Good to see you, sir. God bless you. So, starting off with the lineups, right? So, Eddie Howe made a couple changes, and it makes sense. Obviously, second game of the week. We've got a third game already this Saturday. It's not unsurprisingly. I think I expected. I was saying to you guys in the last show. I expected Bruno Guimeraes to be rotated out, and he was. So Tonali, Miley, and Joe Linton played, and obviously on the face of it, is great. It's fine. Obviously, it's fine in terms of rotation. Our squad is always, or our first team is always stronger with Bruno in it. But you got to rotate. The man has been playing non-stop, including internationals, for a while now, and obviously he had to come on in the second half where he made a immediate impact. But in terms of just, it's unsurprising to see him rotated out. We also had the surprise for me. Obviously, Ramsdale came in, continues to play. Who was the other surprise for me? The surprise, obviously, for me was to see Elanga rotated out and Murphy start. I think a lot of us thought in the chat last week as well that, not a couple of days ago in the last show, that Elanga had a good game against Everton, and that was his first full 90 minutes. He didn't play the previous game against was it Marseille? No, was it Marseille or Man City? One of the two. So this would have been his second game of the week. There's nothing to suggest to me anyway that he wouldn't have been able to play. Maybe obviously Howe would know what he sees on the training pitch, but if everything was fine on the training pitch, my only other kind of conclusion to that was Howe was maybe a little bit too cute with his rotations, and maybe should have left Elanga on the pitch, in my opinion. But look, we can't accuse of Howe of not rotating now and not being able to manage his squad in between European games and everything like that. Now, I'm going to actually, there's something I wanted to. How do I want to break it down? Okay, so let me just break it down in terms of metrics, and I'm gonna first talk about like why I think we deserve to win it, I'm going to talk about the game itself, and then I'm going to talk about maybe what led to the goals themselves before looking at the goals themselves. So, look, overwhelmingly 50, like for the full game itself, we had more of the possession. We only lost possession in our defensive half, 23 to Tottenham's 44, which signaled our our level of intensity, especially in that first half. And do keep in mind, and I'm going to talk about ball recovery quite a bit here because I think it's a good indicator of where things went wrong. We won the higher percentage of our dual success. So we won this high success rate of our dual success rate, 56% to their 41%. So we nearly won 15% more duels than them. So we're physically stronger, dominant all over the pitch. We also won 64% of the dual success rate to their 35%. So again, nearly by 20%. Then we also won. So both on the ground and in the air, we were beating Tottenham up and down the pitch. Now, the intensity of that did shift from first half to second half, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But, again, we were pretty much, dominant in every part of the pitch. Obviously, we had the more possessions. We had less long passes forward, but I think it's because we were a bit more dominant in possession. A lot less passes forward. Our proportion to our passing is 7.5%, which is low for us because typically our passing rate is a bit higher than that, higher than 7.5%, right? Passing accuracy, 85.7%, higher than Tottenham's, who's 80%. And I'm not, because I heard a lot of people say that, I'm not saying it's not true. There is obviously that we've been sloppy in the final third or not great. I guess so, but our passing rate continues to be, in general, pretty good. And I would love to see how it matches up to other teams in the Premier League, but our passing accuracy rate isn't bad in itself. We had out of the 440 passes we made, 231 of them were in the opposition's half. So we're very much in Tottenham's half. As we know, that passing accuracy in Tottenham half was 77.5%, just a 0.5% higher than Tottenham. So pretty accurate, not too bad. 74.6% passing in the final third entry. Again, showing our dominance even in Tottenham's half. Forward passes, 63% of our passes are all going forwards. So very much, very, very direct, fairly direct from us. 2 through balls to their 0. 53 final third entries to their 43. 46 penalty entries to their 36. Total open play crosses, 26 to their 20. So very, very dominant. 40 crosses to their 28. And yeah, even with the more, and we had even the better crossing accuracy compared to them. We had 25% to their 21%. So again, whether it's dual winning, passing, distribution, general, very much in the ascendancy for Newcastle. Again, the most important metric are the goals themselves, right? So before, that's the important metric, and it's 2-2, right? But in terms of our attacking prowess, 19 shots to their 8. So we had more than twice more shots than them. 7 shots on target compared to their 2 shots on target, right? Both of them goals. We had 7 block shots to their 5. We had 3 headed shots compared to their 1. 6 outside the box compared to their 1. 13 shots inside their box compared to their 7. Our shooting, and maybe this is where the problem was. Our shooting accuracy was 58.3% compared to their 66.7%. So they're just making the chances of the very few shots that they had, to be honest. Shooting accuracy, so that was excluding block shots. Shooting accuracy was generally 36.8%, right? So they were doing a whole lot of blocking. We had 12 key passes. So those are passes that eventually led to a shot on target or some shot creating action. 12 to their 6, or more than twice. So more than twice compared to theirs. And I do think that there was stages in the game where it was just a bit too easy for Newcastle. And those are the stages that we've got to manage even better compared to theirs, right? They had the highest tackling success rate. They had to. They were having to tackle a lot more than we did. They had to clear the ball a lot more than we did. We had the better interceptions. Recoveries, we had 54 compared to their 49. Attacking third recoveries. So I'm gonna talk about the recoveries in the moment now, and I'm gonna talk about them compared to first half and second half, because I think that's partly what I think it kind of opens the door to what I want to talk about in terms of perhaps what led to Newcastle not managing the game and letting the game go by and losing. But I see Aaron saying very disappointing the last game, should have been out of sight in the first half, but we failed to create clear-cut chances. I feel we had Wissa, if we had Wissa available to stretch the back line, it would help. I agree with that. Aaron says, I'm still absolutely fuming with both the goals. The second one, I'm trying to figure out how that went in. It was the worst overhead kick I've seen in a long time. How we let that happen is awful. I agree with you, Aaron, honestly. It was the same stories, score sit back. It's the same pattern as well as all season. I do feel Howe needs to take some accountability. How Joe Linton played the entire 90 minutes was criminal. Aaron says certain phases in the game we lacked control based on the game stats. Howe needs to make changes to help with that. Our midfield was getting bypassed too easily. We should have changed that. And with subs, Joe Linton for Ramsey or even Willock was needed around the 60th minute. So he definitely wanted some rotation, some better in-game management there. So, speaking of in-game management, I want to talk about some of the indicators, and a little bit what Aaron was saying actually, in terms of what perhaps led to those goals themselves. I'm kind of looking at recoveries, right? So, essentially, we all know that recoveries essentially are where we recover the ball. So if we lost the ball, where we won the ball more time, or if we didn't have the ball, where did we recover the ball? What areas of the pitch do we take the ball? So was it the attacking thirds, obviously Tottenham's half? Was it in our defensive third, which was in our half, or was it in the middle third, in obviously which is in the middle of the pitch? And I'm going to break it down into first half, second half. And again, it's kind of what Aaron was saying in the beginning. And first half, so this is the first half stats. If you look at our attacking third end recoveries, remember, I'm using these recoveries as an indicator of where I think maybe where the game changed. So in the first half, guys, Newcastle won 6 recoveries in the attacking third in Tottenham's half compared to Tottenham's 0. So our intensity was definitely our identity. We were intense. We were winning the ball in Tottenham's half. They had no dominion. They had no territorial domination in nowhere near our side of the pitch. Tottenham. It was very much Newcastle all up in the faces of Tottenham, and I'm going to show some highlights from that as well. So 6-0 compared to Tottenham. In that first half, again, defensive recovery. We recovered the ball 7 times in our own half compared to Tottenham, who had to recover the ball 15 times in their own half. So it shows you that we very much were not low blocking, that we're pretty much we're playing with a high line, we're playing, or at least it shows that there's an indicator that we're playing intensely high in the opponent's half. And in the middle third, again, a place where we had dominion, we had 15. We recovered the ball 15 times in the middle of the pitch compared to Tottenham's 8. So we had absolute territorial domination in Tottenham's half, in the middle of half of the pit of the pitch as well as in our own half, and that's reflected recoveries in attacking half percentage, 21.4% compared to Tottenham's 0% in that first half. So we're very much on that front foot. The only thing that was missing is, as was said before, were the goals themselves. Now, this changed, unfortunately, in the second half, and you can already see this. Attacking third recovery this time was 5-1, so they at least recovered. It's not too much though. We're still pretty intense, right? We still won the ball 5 times compared to their 1, but this is where it started to change. In the defensive third, in our half of the pitch, we had to recover the ball 12 times this time. Compared to the 7 of the last half. So Tottenham increased their effectiveness in our part of the pitch. And even though Tottenham still had to win the ball 13 times in their half, they were having a lot more joy in the second half compared to the first half. And in the middle third of the pitch, we had to recover the ball 9 times compared to Tottenham. So Tottenham's intensity was beginning to increase, and at least for the recoveries in attacking half, they went from 0% to 3.8%. And I say that to say this. I think this was an indication that not only did Tottenham start changing things tactically in terms of what they were doing, they were passing it, they were taking possession a little more of the ball, they were dribbling more, and they was using Kudus way, way more. And you'll see this on the passing map, in terms of trying to get the ball over to the other, in trying to affect affect the game on the other side of the pitch. So you guys can see the passing map here. This is for Tottenham, right? And for those that aren't aware of the passing map, this is the passing map during the game, and these are the average positions of the team. This shows Tottenham going from right to left. Vicari, you can see, is number 1, all the way to Bergvall, who's the furthest up the pitch for Tottenham, at number 15. The thicker the lines, it shows it's the higher the frequency of passes between said players. And we're talking about, and the thinner the lines, obviously, the less frequency of passes between those said players. And you can see that at least for Tottenham, some of the thickest lines and it kind of, what it is an indicator, and it's showing the pattern of play for Tottenham. And you're going to see the pattern of play for Newcastle in a moment. And you can see the pattern of play here for Kudus, from Bentancur, Pedro Porro, who is obviously at right back, and Bergvall, who is fairly advanced. A lot of the Tottenham's attacking threat was coming from Kudus, and they were trying to get the ball to him as much as possible. In fact, between the passes from Kudus and Porro's 24, and Porro had got the ball to Kudus on 13 occasions. Romero had got the ball to Kudus on 4 occasions. Bentancur got the ball to Kudus on 8 occasions, 2 from Sarr, 5 from Johnson, and even 5 from Bergvall himself. So a lot. I'm sure that Sarr maybe had about 50, 60 touches of the ball, and he was their best attacking threat. And obviously their first goal came from that right side as well. There was a massive duel between him and Lewis Hall. I felt that Lewis Hall had the better of that duel, but the couple of times where Kudus was able to get the ball in and to have an effect, obviously, that's when Tottenham were able to capitalize. And I think that only increased in that second half. And it maybe goes to the point of, and obviously, this is our passing map. You can see here from left going right, you can see thick lines from Ramsdale getting the ball over to our 2 centre-backs in Dan Burn and Malik Chow. We were using our flanks with our forwards. So a lot of our attacking play was down those flanks. Our pattern of play was using, obviously, Livramento at 21 here. Here between, you can see a strong pattern of play between Malik Chow, Livramento, Miley, and Murphy on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, not as strong, but pretty strong link-up play between Burn, Hall, and Barnes, and Joe Linton to a lesser extent. Obviously, he was more of an enforcer type, and I know that. I think we've been talking about Joe Linton a bit. I think we know why we typically use him, his presence and his physicality, but I think we need a little bit more now. It's a little bit like almost similar to the Pope Ramsdale story, where we need a little bit more now in terms of distribution itself. I think had we had maybe a Ramsey in those positions or whatnot, would have been even more effective. But it is what it is. I can't show Bruno Guimeraes' stats. They would have been quite good. But the point being is that we were using our flanks a lot more, and you can see we're very thin in terms of central attacking play, which is fine. I think we still put up a lot of decent attacking metrics, and we know that Tottenham pretty much packed that middle third of the pitch themselves. So I say that to say this. I think folks were saying in terms of what led to us losing the game as well. I think there was a shift. There was our part of it, but I think Tottenham also made a change. They increased their intensity in the second half. They started getting the ball a little bit more, and they started using Kudos way more. And with very few windows of opportunities they were able to create, they were allowed to be effective. And obviously, Romero, centre back, going up front, adding that physicality, helped them absolutely tremendously. Now, obviously, folks aren't overly impressed with what we're saying in terms of what Howe could do. That Howe should have stayed on the attack a lot more, and Howe should have how can you just score and defend, score and defend, and score and defend? And I can definitely see the logic in that. But I think even the commentators were saying that because until we made the change, we put Fabian Schär on. Let me just see. Let me show you guys. What time did we put Fabian Schär on? In fact, let me put this back on. What time did we put Fabian Schär? Because that's when we went on into a 5-3-2 itself. So would you see on team stats? Or is it in general? Or was it lineup? Lineups. Here we go. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can. So because that's when we went into a 5-3-2. So Schär came on. So Schär came on in the 90th minute. Schär came on in the 90th minute, right? And there was 9 minutes extra time. I don't know where they got the 90 minutes from. The 9 minutes from, but it is what it is. Schär came on in the 90th minute, 90 plus 3, 93rd minute even, guys, 93rd minute. That's when Newcastle shifted from a 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, depending on how we are, or 4-3-3, to a 5-3-2, very much so. And that was at the 93rd minute, guys. That was at the 93rd minute. I can't blame Howe for doing that. Even the commentators were saying Tottenham are very much trying to isolate Kudos with Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall needs that support. He needs an extra player on that side of the pitch to prevent Kudos from getting the same goal as he did in the 70th minute, where he was isolated for that brief time, got the ball in early, and Romero was able to get across Dan Burn and get that equalizer for the 1-1 initially, right? So I don't think it was as simple as Howe just all of a sudden getting overly defensive. If he's waited till the 93rd minute to do a 5-3-2, I don't see, when you're just trying to see the game out, I find it very hard to kind of blame him for that, right? Because some of the criticism was, well, it was, if you're putting the team in the 5-3-2, you're signaling to the players that you just want to see it out. Well, it's the 93rd minute with 6 minutes left to go. Is he going to be attacking for the next 6 minutes and kind of leave himself exposed again? I just I I can see criticism of that as well. So yeah, I personally don't see the problem with that change. And again, the game was going into 99 minutes after. This is the second game of a 3-week game season week. The previous week we played 3 games as well. Obviously, we've been playing 2-3 games a week already. He has to rotate. He has to change. We can't keep the same level of intensity each and every time. Now I know, obviously, Tottenham, for instance, they had they increased their intensity in the second half, but they were still barely hanging with us. They're playing the same amount of games as us this season, right? But they were completely annihilated in terms of. We just showed you the recoveries and the tackling and the ground Jews won on the ground, in the air, everything else. Like Tottenham were very much lacking in their own intensity. So we're physically and everything stronger than them. Um, so they just made the best they could with the chances they had. And just again, kind of highlighting that kind of the overall stats for the game in terms of XG, we had 2.4 expected goals compared to their 0.75, right? And again, you can see, even in fact, let me go back to Opta Analyst because it shows you where is it? XG map, not XG map. Is it XG map? Yeah, XG map. You can see a lot of our in terms of clear cut chances as well. So let me get it. Shots on target. Where is it? Is it chalkboard? Yeah, here we go. Chalkboard. So this is us. Make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you guys can see that. So what you guys can see on the right hand side, this is Newcastle. Let me take off Tottenham for a minute. Right. So this is us. This is all the shots off target and on target for Newcastle United. Most of them, apart from two, Lewis Hall and Murphy, are in Tottenham's box. So Harvey Barnes, doesn't say what the XG was. Harvey Barnes, Voltamada, Miley, Miley again, Murphy again, Joe Linton. All of these were shots on target, right? And it kind of actually show it a little bit more on a Sofa Score, because Sofa Score does show a little bit of what the XG was on these, but 0.79 of that XG was the penalty from Gordon, to be fair on that. And the Bruno Guimeraes goal was 0.07 XG. That's how well taken it was. We're going to talk about that goal. It was a really, really good goal. But a lot of goals in and around, a lot of shots in and around their goals, not really high XG though. And maybe that's what is meant about clear. Maybe you're right, Aaron, and maybe others. They weren't overly clear chances. But remember, Tottenham had to clear a ball off the line. We hit the post. There was a couple Miley shots. I know that he got 0.06 here, but we could have maybe done more with the chances that we had. So there's lots of shots. We had 18 shots, so obviously 9 shots on target. It depends. It's difficult to say. I feel like 2.4 expected the goals. Most of that maybe is obviously the penalty got from Gordon. But it doesn't reflect the shot off the line, the goal that was cleared off the line. It doesn't reflect the shot that hit the post from Joe Linton. Could we have created more? There's always a chance for us to create more, but I do feel like we still had a generally good performance in front of goal, and overall in the game, it was just unfortunate. And Tottenham, for themselves, the 2 shots they did have, the goal from Romero in the 95th minute, I don't know how it got. Expected goal. It got an expected goal of 0.09. It should have never went in, but it did. And the header across the ball got 0.25. After that, there wasn't much in it. There was a Simmons chance. I don't even know how they got 0.75. Where did they get 0.075? 0.25. I don't know how they got 0.75, but Tottenham were even less. So look, Tottenham were very, very lucky to get away with any points in this game, in my opinion. And I think this is the third in a row good performance from Newcastle so far this season. Um, but let me know what you guys think. I'm going to show some of the highlights from that game as well. Some of the things that impressed me. We're going to go over the goal as well. So let me show you what I mean. But let me know in the chat what you guys are saying. Let me get back to my StreamYard. Here we go. Let me know what you guys think. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So this one. So yeah, I'm going to show a few of the highlights as well. But part of the reason, the other thing I wanted to talk about as well, actually, let me take that down. But if I get a chance to, yeah, sofa score. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. Because you saw the attacks down the flank. Where is it? Lineups. But we were highly, highly involved. Voltemade, by the way, got a good assist. We're going to talk about that goal as well. Obviously, Hall got really good sofa score rating himself. I think Bruno Guimeraes, though, was really, really good when he came on. What did they give him? But again, you can see in terms of heat maps, where is it? This is Livramento from left going right, spending quite a bit of time in the opposition half. Similar to Hall as well, who was really, really good in this game as well. You can see him here. Even though even in our half, he was still fairly high up, inverting quite a bit, but also spending time even outside the box of Tottenham's half as well, really staying high up. And because he did that, this is Barnes' heat map. Barnes spends barely any time in our half, and he spends the majority of time in Tottenham's half. And very similar to Murphy, who Liveramento's playing behind him, he was spending hardly any time in our half and spending a lot of time in Tottenham's half. So I do think, and maybe when you guys talk about clear-cut chances, when Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento are working so hard running up the pitch, maybe there's a little bit more we can expect from our frontline duos in Barnes and Jacob Murphy from this game. I mean, Barnes had 2 shots, to be fair to him, 30 touches in the game, 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 3 accurate crosses. Could have been a little bit more, I think. 1 out of 4 ground duels won. You know, it wasn't as good as his Tottenham performance, perhaps, and his Man City performance, I think. Jacob Murphy himself, no goals, no assists. He had 4 shots on target. 4 shots on target, 44 touches, 1 out of 2 successful dribbles. You know, that's why I think Elanga maybe should have played instead of him. And obviously, Gordon came on for Harvey Barnes and had the bigger impact. We're going to talk about that. So I do think there's maybe a little bit of change that we could have got from that game. Voltemade had a decent game. I think he himself had 2 shots. So there's, you know, from the forward play of Livramento and Hall, who, you know, a lot of our attacking play was from down the flank. They were given the chances to Murphy and Barnes to be creative, to shoot, to create those chances, and it just wasn't happening for them. So I think there's something from that, and I think Elanga, at least from Murphy's, I can see why Barnes stayed on, but I think we could have done more in terms of. I think Howe could have done a little bit more in terms of allowing, allowing Elanga to stay on and play, but. Let's talk. I'm going to go to the chats in a moment, but I'm going to break down some of the highlights that I enjoyed from the game as well. But let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Aaron says Dan Burn was at fault for the first goal, and Elanga and both defenders at fault for the overhead kick that should have been blocked and cleared. I agree. I do agree with that. I think Ramsdale, is getting a lot of stick, but I feel like there's, as always it is with us fans and commentators, you know, people already don't rate Ramsdale, and some people didn't want him to change in the first place and whatnot, so that he's getting a lot of stick. But sometimes people do generally think that Ramsdale could have done better. I agree with what Aaron is saying, that, you know, the ball went through so many people, like it looked terribly slow, and it was, but it went through so many people. It was today. I don't know if you guys saw the Man United West Ham game. I can't remember who it was for Man United, whether it was Bruno Fernandes tried an overhit kick, and Bowen put his head on the, like literally risked his head on the ball to block it. Now, I'm not saying the Langa has to risk his brain, but you need to see, we need to see something like that. I think Bruno Guimeraes made a point about that. We need to defend with our lives, and I think he's talking about that kind of stuff in the league itself. But I'm going to go through the highlights in a moment, but let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Aaron says, the changes he made, Eddie Howe made, I didn't mind, but to not make that change to the obvious weak link for us, who was given the ball away and unable to help us in the final third, it was so obvious it cost us, in my opinion. So is that for Joe Linton? I think you're talking about. Let me see Joe Linton's stats quickly, because I don't think, for instance, Joe Linton is his job isn't to create in this game. I always want to, like, you know me guys, I want to criticize. If I'm going to criticize players, it's for stuff they should be doing or that's in the capability of doing that they aren't doing. So, like, always with Dan Burn, I don't expect him to do what Lewis Hall can do in terms of close control in tight spaces, creativity in the opposition half, things that of that nature. But when it comes to like aerial duels, physicality, so for instance, you're right. It's why I kind of blaming Dan Burn for allowing Romero getting across him. That Dan Burn should have done better for that. Absolutely. So I want to, with Joe Linton, for instance, when we talk about creativity, he's definitely not the person that we're looking for creativity. He's the enforcer, the breaker of play, the disruptor. So he played 90 plus minutes. You can see his heat map here from left going right. And can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see that. From left going right. Spends most of the time on that left hand side. Obviously, he's left here, is a left forward as well, left midfielder, but also quite a bit in the opposition half, pushing up, being aggressive, pressing, right? So, expected goal 0.01, that's fine. But he did have one key pass. Accurate passes, 83%. So from 29 to 35, out of the 35 passes that he made, 29 of them were accurate. Passes in the opposition half, in Tottenham's half, 19 out of 20, 90% accuracy. 90% accuracy in opposition half. That's pretty good. Where he was let down a little bit, passes in his own half, 10 out of 14, 71%. So if anything, you probably want Joe Linton in the opposition half a little bit more. He had one shot on target. He had one shot, and that was the one he hit on the post. When he hit the woodwork, he had 49 touches of the ball. Only one of those touches was an unsuccessful touch. 49 touches on the ball. Joe Linton had a good game. He had one interception, 2 clearances, which you expect from him, 10 recoveries. He got the ball 10 times from Tottenham, which is what you want him to do. I don't know how they got 3 out of 11 duels. That's amazing. I'm pretty sure it should have been a bit higher, but fine. And he gave away 1 foul and was dribbled past 3 times. Right? Maybe you can say he could have done a little bit better there, but if he's playing 90 minutes, there's a thing there. For me, Aaron, and for anybody else really, he had a decent game. Joe Linton did Joe Linton things. He got the ball, he gave it to the people who can do something with it. And even when he was in the opposition half, 90% of his passes in Tottenham's half were accurate. Joe Linton had a good game. But let me know what you think. Big up Frederico Kaba. I don't know if it's your first time to the channel, but if it isn't, my apologies. If it is, God bless you. Welcome to the welcome to the show. Will Barnes play? Great question, Frederico. Let me know who your starting lineup for the Burnley game was. We're going to talk about it in a moment. I want to show a few highlights before we get to the Tottenham game, though. Before we get to talking about the about the about what game we're talking about. Before we talk about what game are we playing? Burnley. Before we talk about the Burnley game, sorry. I'm going to get there in a moment. So let me just show a few things that I like that we did. And keep in mind that intensity was definitely our identity in this game. Winning the ball, especially in the first half, in the opposition half. And Lewis Hall, once again, was super impressive. And I think what I'm going to show you, I think this happened in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Some of you guys will remember. This is where we almost at the old Newcastle, winning the ball high, uh, uh, and creating chances, came up here. So this is Tottenham. We've pressed them so well, by the way, that they've gone long. They've just stopped trying to play out from the back. You can see that both their two pivots are guarded very closely by Joe Linton and by I don't know who that is. Who would that be? Miley? No, it's Joe. Yeah, Joe Linton and Miley, and obviously our forwards here. They said no, we're not playing from out the back, so they've chosen to go long instead. Ball goes high, and somebody who wins it. I think it's Hall. This is Hall and Kudus, by the way. People were talking about, if people didn't watch the game, but Hall and Kudus had an almighty clash. But this is Hall in the first, 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of the game. Kudus does well here. He gets the first contact on the ball. He chests it. Hall doesn't let him go. He continues to run up to push him back. Miley can see this now, so his body language is now changed to go to the other direction. Really well here. Hall continues to follow up on Kudus. Doesn't let Kudus gets the ball off here, but Hall doesn't leave the intensity. It doesn't stop his intensity again. He continues to press. Presses Sarr into making the mistake. Grabs the ball, and this is the old Newcastle winning the ball up high. Now all of a sudden you got 3-on-2 here, just from that one intensity again. Good to see Woltemade running. And look, it's hard for me to advise Lewis Hall from here on now because he does everything right. I do think he should have passed the ball either to, I think it's Woltemade, either Woltemade or Murphy. I think it's going to be Woltemade. And he did a similar thing, you guys remember, against Everton, right? When he took the shot, it did hit the crossbar. It's hard for me, if I was Eddie Howe, it's hard for me to come to a call here and say you should have passed the ball, where I do want him to also take a chance and shoot, right? But I do think at this stage, you're going to see it in a moment, he carries the ball with him really well after winning it back from Sarr. It's at this stage. Here, look, Woltemade is absolutely begging for the ball. He's begging for the ball. He's way on side. You can see the Tottenham defender here. I don't know if that's Danso. His body language switches to go towards Mr. Hall, so you can see the spaces open up here. I would love to know how vocal Woltemade is, right? Because I don't know if that was Alan Shearer. We know what Alan Shearer does if you don't pass him the ball, right? David Ginola can attest to that. I do think Hall could have passed him the ball there. He doesn't. He chooses to shoot. Fair enough. Fair enough. And he was pretty close, but I think Woltemade was the better guy. You can see Woltemade with his hands out. But if I was Woltemade, and I hope he's done this, but I'll be making a point to Lewis Hall saying, you need to, the next time you do that, you better give me the ball. Right? You done well winning the ball back, but we don't well winning the ball back, but I was in there, right? But aside from all of that, we won the ball hand. That was just one example of many. We read the earlier metrics of how well Newcastle were doing, winning the ball up in the opposition half and creating chances from it. And that was just one of those examples as well. So that was really good. And it was good to see our left back doing it from a central area, winning the ball as well. The other thing was the Bruno Guimeraes goal. I'm going to fast forward it to that as well, because this goal, to me, exemplified a number of things that we want to see from Newcastle United. A number of from not only just from just like general play itself, but also from like individuals. So let me show you this as well. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So I think the Bruno Guimeraes goal was a really, really, really good goal, and I think for a number of reasons. So let me just show you this. This is earlier the Livramento chance again, safe from the keeper. So this is the second half. Newcastle going from left to right. We've gone into a back three here. Lewis Hall this time obviously it stays where he's at. You can see Livramento then goes a little bit higher, but you can see on the other side of the pitch when Lewis Hall on the third man of that three-man defensive line gets the ball out wide to Gordon, who's this time out wide touchline. And what's really clever about this play, yeah, is that they've isolated Pedro Porro by himself. And how they did it was by pinning Joe Linton on, I think it's who's the person next to Bentancur, and the other man, Woltemade, staying. We've been talking about this since the Man City game. Is Woltemade not dropping in, but this time holding the line and staying high up. And look, not only has he got one Tottenham centre back with him, but he's got two Tottenham centre backs with him. So, and he's pulled two centre backs with him. John Linton's pulled one Tottenham midfielder with him as a result of that. And with that, created a space behind him, which Bruno's coming in to fill in. So even if Gordon didn't take on Pedro Porro, which he does, he still had the option of getting the ball, playing this triangle with Bruno and Joe Linton. But instead, obviously, he had the other option, which is now he's got his man isolated. So this is what we want to see more and more from Newcastle, right? So now Gordon's in a position where he's not having to go past three players. Now he's in his favorite position on that touchline, and he's able, and you can see the spacing behind Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is just a little bit too slow to get out wide. He doesn't want to get out wide, but if he leaves Gordon, he's going to face him by himself anyway. So he tries to close in, and in that he creates the spacing behind him. Really clever play from Newcastle. Really, really good play. It's too late now. Pedro Porro's realizes he's not going to get the ball. He tries to change his body language to go the other way because he knows there's a massive spacing behind him. Does he have the pace to hold on to Gordon? You're going to find out in a minute. No, he doesn't. Gordon stands him up and then goes in for him and just bursts past him totally. Bentancur has to leave Joe Linton to also support Pedro Porro, but he's not quick enough either. And look at Mr. Woltemade is. Once again, keeping his presence in the opposition half and bringing 2-3 centre backs with him. Miley's following in behind him. Really, really good play. Gordon goes past Pedro Porro, goes past Bentancur, and this is where you see Gordon at his best, where he lights up when you create these type of opportunities for him. Really, really good play. And watch the movement of Woltemade. He looks as if he's going to continue running in, but he drops just a little bit, maintains his position really, really well, and holds off Dan. So the ball is a really nice cutback from Gordon, and Woltemade does really, really well to keep what's the name, Danso off him. And look at this lovely layoff. This shows the best. So we just saw the best of Gordon, 1v1, bursted past his man, cut back into the penalty box, and we see the best of Woltemade pulling defenders with him, keeping them off him, and then doing the lovely, lovely touch. And then you're going to see the best of Bruno Guimeraes with his incredible, lovely goal, lovely bottom corner goal, and really well made goal, really, really deserved goal from Bruno Guimeraes. When he's in that part of the goal, no one better than him. And I would love to see Miley taken. I know Miley's got a shot on him as well. He had two shots in this game where he was not in two dissimilar positions, but kind of angling his body in that same way. It was a lovely, lovely finish. You do get to see the other side of it in a moment here as well. You see again Gordon getting past his man. No one's catching him. Lovely cutback again. You can see it here. Woltemade holds off his man. Lovely layout. And you can see this lovely, lovely, even side of the net finish. Side, you can see even here, it goes to the. It was a side of the net finish from Bruno. Look at this side of the net finish. Lovely, opens up his body. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous finish from Bruno Guimeraes. And so, I think that's just an example of the kind of play that Newcastle are able to do, and and how it brings out the best in individual players in different parts of the pitch. So I thought it was a really, really superb goal from us as well. But going from the sublime to the to the how else can I say it? Not so sublime. We'll talk a little bit about this. I can only describe as unfortunate Romero goal. But let me see what you guys are saying in the chat before we do that. Johnny-ola, God bless you. Don't know if it's your first time to the show, but if it's not, my apologies. If it is, God bless you. Welcome to the show. We have no one with major creativity, no playmaker. We have a team of athletes, he says. And just to add to that, Woltemade is creative and has a trick in him, but is normally isolated. Well, for me, let me know. For me, Johnny-ola, to your first point, I think the way our team is structured is not for there to be one playmaker. We kind of play as a collective, and it works. So, for instance, you would say, for instance, Cole Palmer for Chelsea is a playmaker, right? Chelsea scored around us and Chelsea last year scored almost like the same amount of goals as each other. I guess what I'm saying is there's more than one way to skin a cat. Now, I'm not saying that we should never have a creative player, but I think we have players who can be creative and can score. You just saw the goal from Bruno Guimeraes, and Bruno Guimeraes also has a number of assists as well, as he did last season. And so I kind of want to push back on that point where I do think that we have more creative. We do have, I know it's the creative, but I'll say technical players as well. And I think our creativity, if you want to talk like that, also comes from our fullbacks a lot as well, from winning the ball up high. You saw that as well in this game. And so I don't think we just have athletes. You saw Gordon just now getting past his man, cutting past his man with a lovely cutback as well. So I do think we're a little bit more than that, in my opinion, from what we've been able to achieve so far this season. There was something I wanted to show as well. And you mentioned the team of athletes. We're an athletic team, a physical team, but we definitely have technical quality players. Obviously, you mentioned Woltemade, Bruno Guimeraes, Lewis Miley, Tonali, Lewis Hall for sure, Livramento, Malik Chow for sure, even Fabian Shaw, Botman. We have a really good technical team as well in different areas of the team. So for me, I think we're more than a team of athletes, in my opinion. I was trying to find something on for Newcastle. So let me just see. But let me know your thoughts. Where is it? There was something I wanted to show, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Okay, fine. I can't find it. But yeah, so let me see if there's anything more in the chat. And Johnny said, and especially in the last 3 games, Woltemade has not been isolated, in my opinion. Johnny says, we can't break down teams who sit deep against us. I do agree having Livramento and especially fullback should help. And it has been helping for sure. I mean, Tottenham went into low block. They conceded 2 goals. Everton weren't so much on a low block, to be honest, to be fair to them, but we put 4 past them. Obviously, Man City are on the low block. We're going to learn a lot from the Burnley game. We're going to see how our fullbacks are used in the Burnley game. That's a good segue actually as well. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get that, but you made some good points. I do think we're better than maybe how you feel about it. I did push back on some of the points, but like I said, from the sublime to the not so sublime. This is the Romero goal, and this is the frustrating part. This is now 95th minute of the game, right? We've got 3 minutes to go, and it's been well documented that Newcastle United have lost 11 points, dropped 11 points from winning positions uh, in the league so far. So Pedro takes the goal. Um, it's initially trying to remember. You're going to see a lot of jostling. Now, what happened here? Was this not it? Have I showed the wrong highlight? Yeah, I showed the wrong highlight. Sorry, guys. Not Pedro. I think this is it. So it's Tell who takes the ball. A big scramble in the penalty box, and part of that scramble is Romero. So at this stage, when Ramsey clears the ball with his fist, Romero. This is the annoying part. Romero is on the floor with Elanga. And I think this is where the annoyance comes for people, right? He's on the floor with Elanga. And this is where not Elanga, it's either Elanga or Chow. I think it's Chow. And what you want to see is the centre back or somebody getting up as quickly as possible for the second contact, right? Romero has time. He gets up. So Elanga's on his feet. Excuse me. So his Chowder's on the floor. Elanga's on his feet. Romero gets up. He's got enough time to get up and see the ball. The ball is still dropping. And I think this is where Elanga does get the blame from people of not being intense enough, not throwing himself enough, or at least making Romero feel that he's on his back, that he can't just, do a bicycle kick willy-nilly or have some second thoughts about it. He doesn't do that, right? The ball's still in the air. It hangs for about 3 or 4 seconds. Elanga's still behind him. In fact, Elanga doesn't even get behind him. He slows down and takes a different angle. Elanga actually moves out the way. Elanga moves out the way for Romero to do. He almost says, let's see this, right? And before this, you can see, I think it's Shaw, Chow, Burn are all, everybody's watching the ball. Ramsdale's just there. It gets past Shaw, it gets past Chow. It's about to get past Burn before it gets to Ramsdale. It's absolutely heartbreaking to watch this goal. I have to say, you can see it here, even at this angle. Ramsdale clears the ball. You can see why does Elanga move out the way here? I don't understand. You can see Elanga's here. He's behind Romero. Romero's on the floor. He's on the floor. The ball is in the air now because Ramsdale's cleared it. Romero's got time to get up. Ramsdale's got time to, not Ramsdale, Elanga's got time to chase him. He moves out the way for whatever reason. Maybe even Hall could have done a little bit more. There's 3 players in front of him, Shaw, Chow, and in front of Ramsdale, Shaw, Chow, and Burn. Shaw, Chow, and Burn. I do not blame Ramsdale for this goal because I think he's got the right positioning. It makes no sense for Ramsdale, for instance, to stand behind Burn because he's definitely not gonna see the ball that way. He's trying to see the ball, right? And he's backing at least 3 players in front of him to be able to block it. It's just a horrible. It's just heartbreaking to see this, like to see this goal go in, but it did, and we are where we are, and so we have to learn from this going forward. And obviously, the Burnley game is going to be the opportunity for us to learn from that game. But all in all, since the whole Brentford, West Ham's, and everything else, we've beat City, we've beat Everton, games that we didn't expect to win. Obviously, we even lost to Marseille, away to Marseille. But those 3 performances, and now even the Tottenham performance, 2-2 to Tottenham, I felt, in my opinion, were very, very, very good performances. Even though we didn't always get the result, I felt like we could have got a result against Marseille. Obviously, we had a crazy error in that game. And like I said, I feel like we deserved a better result against Tottenham. It was unfortunate defending, in my opinion. I slightly push back on, in fact, I do push back on Eddie Howe, the situations where Eddie Howe has been defensive. Yes and no, you have to make changes. He brought on Shaw in the 95th, 93rd minute before we went into 5-3-2. We were playing with four at the back at that stage. And Tottenham were getting a little bit more foothold in the ball. They were trying to isolate Kudos of Hall as much as possible. I think Howe made the right changes, in my opinion, with 5-6 minutes to go. And who could account for such a goal going in? I don't know who else, in my opinion. So the last four performances, City, Marseille, Everton, and now Tottenham, Newcastle produced nearly 2.0 XG in each of those games, or between 1.4, 1.3 to 2.0 XG in all those games, showing creativity. Scored tons of goals in those games, 2 against City, 4 against Everton, 1 against Marseille, and now 2 against Tottenham. We conceded in all those games as well, to be honest. And that's another thing to talk about. But we're scoring goals, we're creating chances, we're performing better, in my opinion. And so uh, we just have to continue performing well. And I think the more we perform well, the better our results are going to get. But let me know your opinions as always, guys. I'm going to talk about now it's time, guys. It's time to talk about the Burnley game itself. And you guys have said in the chat, before we get there in the chat, you guys are saying, Johnny Ola says, Ramsdale not at fault in my humble opinion. Excuse me, sorry, Johnny. Ramsdale not at fault in my humble opinion. I agree, me too. But would you buy Ramsdale or go for Trafford? Great question. Great question. For the long term and the fact that we've wanted Trafford for so long, just buy the guy that you always wanted. I actually did a show on all the goalkeepers. I can't remember if I included Ramsdale. I don't know, Aaron, if you remember, but I did a show where we included Trafford, we included the Barcelona keeper, Kobo. I can't remember if I included Ramsdale. I don't think I did. But there was somebody else I included. I think I chose Trafford overall. But he's the younger keeper. I think and he's definitely one of the keepers in line to become England's number one as well. Just bringing him in, bringing the guy that you always wanted, young, great shot stopper, absolutely brilliant with his feet as well. So just bringing him in. So yes, I would take Trafford, Johnny. I think Trafford's like 21, 22 as well. What about you, Johnny? Let me know which one you take. Aaron says Burnley will likely sit back in mid to low block as it's going to be real difficult to break them down. Well, speaking of Burnley, let's talk about Burnley. Let's talk about Burnley. And it's time. And like I said in the thumbnail, it's time. Is it Wissa time? And I'm gonna spoiler alert. I won't do a spoiler alert. Before I talk about my lineup, let me know you guys line up for the Burnley game. If you guys are on here, let me know you guys line up for the Burnley game. Now, it's been a lot of talk about Wissa. Friday is going to be the day. Tomorrow, Friday is going to be the day where Eddie Howe decides whether he's going to play him or not. I think he does. I personally think, and I'm going to say it a bit later, I think there's a good chance that Wissa starts. So I'm going to talk a little bit what the team would look like with Wissa starting in a moment. Before we do that, we're going to talk about how Burnley play. Part of the reason why I think that is because he did the same approach of Tino Livramento. No, I know. I could be comparing apples and oranges here. Tino Livramento is younger. He knows the Newcastle system better, and so that's why he started as opposed to kind of coming in phases last 15, 20 minutes. But I do think that that's going to be part of the surprise that Wissa starts. I think that could throw off Burnley even more in terms of that low block and everything else. But let's get into it. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Wissa starts? Is he in your lineup or do you think he's on the bench? So I'm going to do a quick summary. I'm going to make sure can you guys see this? Yes, you can. So this is a bit of a storyboard, and big up Zeko Football. I got this from Zeko Football. You can, and I really encourage you guys to like, share, and subscribe to his channel if you haven't as well. He's a really, 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 really good tactical analyst. Now, I've screenshotted this from Zeko Football in his analysis of the Burnley Chelsea game because this is the most recent game that Burnley played, and it gives an example of how Burnley play, obviously under Scott Parker. And we're going to give overall stats for them in a moment as well. And just to kind of give a flavor of how Burnley play. Now, this is at Turf Moor, so maybe they do play a little bit differently, but this is at Turf Moor. And I'm going to go to the stats in this game, kind of see if they played a low block in this game as well, but which they kind of had to a little bit. But I don't think that's what they want to play, in my opinion. I don't think they came to survive because Burnley's lined up in a 4-2-3-1. So starting from the left, the top left, Burnley lined up in a 4-2-3-1 formation with Fleming as their number one striker, with three behind him and the two pivots of I think it's Colin, and with another gentleman, I can't see the name here as well. But in a 4-2-3-1 formation with Armand Dubravka in their back line. Now, the initial problem in this game for going from left to right for Burnley was Chelsea creating that box midfield that allowed them to overload in that midfield. We know all about that box midfield whenever we play against Chelsea. What they love to do is to invert the fullbacks in the form of Cucurella next to their one of the midfield pivots in Santos, and which allows Enzo to push up and join in. And you can see João Pedro to drop back and create that four-man midfield with Delap leading the line, Gittins and Neto on the wing, stretching the play. But the main overload happens in that midfield area, which allows them to progress the ball through the midfield and get the ball out to their strikers. And so Scott Parker had to solve that problem and that solution. And his solution was to bring back one of his bring back Odachukwu. He's I don't know if it's his cam or his number 8, but I'll say his cam, to push him back a little bit and to man mark Cucurella. So you can see in the screen to the right, you're going to see Odachukwu and Fleming. I think I missed that screen, but what you're going to see is Odachukwu marking Cucurella and Fleming dropping back to mark Santos, with Anthony on James and the gentleman on the right marking Chalobah. So what it allowed was then to stop the Chelsea overload. So it was quite a clever move in terms of doing that, but also allowed Burnley to stay in the game, but also to be in the position where they can attack as well. But Chelsea also were able to counteract that, and you can see in the bottom left hand of the screen, and this is maybe where Burnley have struggled all season. They lost their last five games, and this is where I think they just lack the individual quality. What Chelsea did was to counteract that, was to start rotating those players in that middle half of the pitch. So what you're going to see is you would see Cucurella moving further up the pitch with João Pedro dropping in, and that confused Odachukwu, who would start following Cucurella, and Colin trying to follow Pedro, but not doing it successfully, and start creating gaps. So Collins was a bit too hesitant to follow Pedro deeper into Pedro's half, leaving because he was worried about the spacing behind him. And Odachukwu was worried about having to follow Cucurella into his own half and leaving the spacing behind him. And you can see now this kind of gaps and these spaces beginning to create in the middle half of the pitch, which allowed the likes of Enzo to exploit, Santos to exploit, Cucurella to exploit, and they were able to get in through the middle of the half of Chelsea, which allowed them, and you can see here in the next cut, to create these spaces in the final third. And there's a goal that Chelsea created where I think it was Cucurella who was able to get onto the ball into that final third, cross it in the far back post where Neto and Enzo were hitting that far back post, and where they were able to header it in. And actually, Burnley conceded a very similar type of goal against, who did they play? I want to say it was Palace they played. I watched that game, and I think Palace scored a very, very similar type of goal that Chelsea did, where one of their players was able to get into that final third, cross the ball on the back end of the on the back end of Burnley's post, where there was again overloads on the back line, and they were able to get a header in, very similar to this net goal here. And the final one, where again this leads me to the why I think Wissa could start, is when Chelsea scored their second goal. You can see here Gui. In fact, let me get this. I'm going to show a bigger screen. I want to show Gui. Sorry. Again, big up Zeko Football. Can you? No, you guys can't see that. Excuse me. Take that off. Put this on. Big up, big up, big up Zeko Football. Do like, share, and subscribe to his channel. So this is the second half. This is the other way. The second goal that Chelsea scored, you can see here. And again, this boils down to, in my opinion, Burnley's individual players. You can see Gui here stretching the pitch by running in behind, forwards into Nzebi to follow him. Neto's about to get the ball to him. Get the ball to him as well into that open space. And what ends up happening is Gui's, he's 18, 19 years old. He's able to hold off, pretty seasoned Twanzebe, get past him. And even with, he's able to get past him, hold the ball off, cut back, stop, turn him, cut back, and get the ball and get past do a cutback to Enzo Fernandez, who followed him in and who was able to seal the deal, that goal there. And I'm already thinking, if Gui can do that to Nzebi, Woltemade can do that to Nzebi. Oh man, Wissa can do that to Nzebi, and Barnes, any of our players can do that to Nzebi as well. I do think a lot of this is going to come down to individual play. And the physicality and athleticism that we showed against Tottenham, I think we're going to show against Burnley as well. And that kind of leads me on to, I'm going to talk about Wissa in a moment, but that kind of leads me on to why I do think we're going to see a Woltemade and Wissa combination. Not quite the Peter Crouch and Defoe. It's going to be a little bit different. The little and large is going to be a little bit different, but I do like the representation or the implication behind it. We're going to see that famous combination maybe at Newcastle United as well. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. Have you guys seen Burnley play? In fact, before I get to that, I want to show Burnley's stats as well before I get to that. And they don't make good reading for Burnley whatsoever, but it's important to make sure we represent them. Which one is it that I want to show? Maybe this one. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. So Burnley. So just to say, Burnley are pretty much for literally all the metrics, Premier League metrics. You can FotMob rating. This is from FotMob. Their ratings, they're pretty much ranked 9th from 17th to 20th. Relegation zone, goals per match 17th, goals conceded per match 18th. That's not good. That means they're conceding on average 2 goals per match, right? So even if they're playing a low block, they're conceding goals. Lowest on possession, 40.9%. 14th on clean sheets, they got 2. That's the one place they are not, maybe they're not as low. Relegation for expected goals, 10.6. Shots on target, 18th. Big chances created, 18th. They're not creating a lot of big chances either. Big chances missed, 19th. Again, even the chance they are creating are low. Again, lowest for accurate passes, lowest for long balls. No, excuse me, accurate long balls perhaps. They're top 6 for that. So they're not too bad with the long balls. That's something to be wary of. Accurate crosses per match, 20th. They're 10th for penalties awarded. They got 1. touches in opposition box at 20th. So they spent hardly any time in the opposition box. They're 20th for corners. They're highest for XG conceded. So what that means is they are on the receiving end of a lot of chances being created against them. They're the highest and number one, numero uno. So Newcastle will undoubtedly create chances against them. They're also highest for interceptions, but that's because they spend a lot of time having to defend as well. And even in that, they're 10th for tackles per match, which kind of shows you, I think, that's poor considering that they're having to defend a lot, which says to me that, again, physically they're not doing well. They're one of the highest for clearances because they're having to clear the ball. They're the lowest for possessions won in the final third. So I expect Newcastle to play through their press as well if there is a press. They're one of the highest for penalties conceded. That's because they're having to spend a lot of time in their own box. Dubravka is having to make the most saves per match, nearly 4 saves per match he's having to make. The 4 fouls per match, they're hardly getting any fouls because they're not on the ball. Doing really, really badly in literally on every metric. And even in terms of form, if I show their form, as of recent, in fact, let me just let me show their form quickly before I go back to their XG. This is Burnley's XG. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see that. Burnley. Where art thou, Burnley? So they're currently in the relegation zone. It looks like they've lost the last 5 games. They have lost the last 5 games. I don't know if they lost more than that. Let's see, Burnley. So of their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from their last 10 games, and one of them is a League Cup game, guys, against Cardiff City. They've lost 8 games and they've won 2. They beat Leeds, which is amazing to me, and they beat Wolves. So both relegation rivals there. But they lost to Cardiff City 2-1, to Man City 5-1, Villa 2-1 they lost, Arsenal beat them 2-0, West Ham beat them 3-2, Chelsea beat them 2-0, Brentford beat them 3-1, Palace beat them 1-0. So they're just, this is they're sinking fast. They've played, out of the 14 games they've played so far this season, they've won 3 games, drawn 1, and lost 10. They've scored 15 goals and conceded 28. So low block or not, they're conceding goals left, right, and center, and they're conceding. There's a lot of chances being created against them as well. So they're not in a good form. If I quickly look at their XG, we mentioned it a bit earlier. I do think it's useful to look at XG as well. Where is it? Table XG, to kind of say that they're kind of deserving of this. So even on the XG table, they actually ought to be 20th, right? And just to kind of explain again what these numbers mean, the 10.6 there is the XG they've conceded, 10.6, right? And they've actually they've conceded. So they've actually conceded. Let me just make sure I remind myself. Where is it? Oh, so they've conceded. How many goals have they conceded? I say. So Burnley have conceded 28 goals, wasn't it? Yeah, so they've conceded 28 goals, right? Oh, wrong place. They've conceded 28 goals, but what does their XG say? Because remember, they're conceding a lot of chances against them, right? Yeah. So their XG says they ought to have conceded 29.4, so nearly 30 goals. So, their XG is only off by 1.4. What that means is that they're almost, it's on a minus 1.4 compared to the XG. So they should have conceded more goals. So teams are actually even underperforming the amount of goals they should have scored against Burnley. So it already tells you that even Burnley's defensive. This is Burnley's defensive system. This is their system. It's a system at the moment. Their defensive system, the way it's set up, is designed to concede a lot of goals at this rate. Whether it's a low block, mid block, high intensity, they're conceding it, and they can't do anything about it. They're and you would note that they scored 15 goals this so far. Their XG says they should have scored 10.6, so they're overperforming the XG by 4.4. So even they're pretty fortunate. What it's saying to you, they're pretty fortunate with the goals they have scored. So they're pretty fortunate with that. They're pretty lucky. So their system, their defensive system and their attacking system are both very, very poor. They are a relegation side. Newcastle are currently sitting ninth on the XG table. Obviously, I think they're 11th or 12 on points. They're currently sitting ninth on the XG table. I think we've scored 19 goals and conceded. Let me just remind ourselves, because Newcastle are doing pretty okay on the XG table. So just remind ourselves, they scored 19 goals and conceded 18. Obviously, they got 19 points. On the XG table, Newcastle are ninth, because according to the chances we've created, we scored 19 goals. The XG says we should have scored 19.4. So what that lets you know is that with the amount of chances Newcastle created, they should have scored 19 goals, and we have scored 19 goals. So that pretty shows you that we have an attacking system that is at the moment getting us 19 goals. Could we improve on that? Yes. It's not by chance, is what I'm saying. So Newcastle aren't getting 19 goals, but if Newcastle XG was 10, but we're scoring 19 goals, it would say plus 9 XG, which means that we're overperforming. Whereas our one says minus 0.4, which pretty much is very much in line with the chances Newcastle creating, which should be 19. We are scoring 19 goals, so we're very much in line with our XG at this moment in time. With our goals conceded, obviously, Newcastle have conceded 18 goals. Our XG says we should have conceded 15 or nearly 16 goals. So at the moment, teams are getting a little bit we've conceded plus 2 goals more than we should have, according to the XG. Teams have according to the opposition XG. So what it's saying is that teams have been a little bit lucky against us so far. And I think the Tottenham game is an example of that. The Romero goal, the two shots on target, 2 goals scored. Is those type of examples that let you know that teams have been fairly lucky on us, and it'll show you that we're currently on 18 or 19 points, and it says that we should have at least 2 more. We should have at least 2 more points. We should be on 21 points according to our performance. So we're slightly underperforming, but only slightly, right? So, Newcastle are performing both offensively and defensively, certainly offensively well, but we need a little bit more luck. Offensively, we are defensively at the moment. People are scoring the goals or getting really lucky 2 shots on targets against us at the moment in time, which I think will balance itself out in the end as well. But as some of you said, can we create more clear-cut chances? I wouldn't disagree with that, but I think we'll start to push on with that now that we've got our fullbacks back, and now that we're going to see Mr. Wissa back as well. So I think there is a chance of that happening, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Wissa coming back and how that could look, and I'm going to take us to the tactics board for the game. And let me set up the tactics board, and then I'll read the chats as well. There's a few people in the chats. So, so I think that's the story at the moment for both teams, where what do you call it? Burnley are on every metric are a relegation team, and we have to we have to, we have to show our class. I think it's important that we show our class on this game. Oh, I haven't loaded it. That's why. So let me get my JLA tactics board. Guys, send me in your starting lineups. Let me know who you would play. I'm going to probably show the lineup I want to see. And then maybe, probably will show the line, the lineup that we probably probably will see. But let me just get this JLA tactics board on screen. Here we go. Make sure you guys can see that. Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? Yes, you can. But let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Aaron says, let me get a drink of water. Oof. Let me know who would be in your starting lineup. Are you talking to Johnny there? Aaron says, I do think it's too early for Wissa to start. Even though he's played 2 indoor games, I do think he comes on in the last 10 or 20 minutes, to be honest. And that's probably the more likely. That's probably the more likely. I'm just being speculative here. And I'm going off of what's the word? I'm trying to, maybe I'm being positive a bit. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm being something. I just wonder if Howe's got a bit of a trick up his sleeve where people are expecting him to be on the bench, but he ends up playing, because I feel like that's what happened with Livramento. But I am comparing apples and oranges there. I do admit that. I see them trying to avoid from me. I'm feeling Lancaster. Okay, so Aaron says Hartman, very good left back, one of the best. Burnley, okay, so one of the best in the league, in my opinion. That side, I can see them trying to overload, which is why, for me, I get a feeling Elanga starts, and I think he should start. I think Elanga does. I think he was very unlucky not to start. It's a bit unlike Howe as well. When a player is playing well, to just rotate him, especially when he just played one game. It's unlike Howe a little bit. I'd love to know the story behind that one time. Aaron says Marcus Edwards and Hall, very important battle as well. Always rated Edwards from his time in Portugal, but he's always gonna want to come inside on his left foot. Yeah, he is. I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised he plays. Yeah, I thought he would have stayed at Sporting, because he was getting Champions League games as well. Johnny says Burnley 5 defeats in a row. We have beaten them in the last 4 meetings. If we don't win this, then something is seriously wrong mentality-wise. Yeah, I agree with that. I just think if the same Newcastle that turned up against Everton, Marseille, Tottenham, who else? Who else did we beat? Man City, I think we beat them. So Aaron says the team I think that needs to start: Ramsdale, Tino, Shaw, Chow, Hall, Miley, Bruno, Ramsey, Barnes, Elanga, Voltamada. Excuse me, Wissa cameo would be nice as well. I don't see Tonali playing with injury. Can you guys confirm the Tonali's injury is confirmed? Because I know they're doing that thing about touch and go. Can anybody tell me what's the extent of Tonali's injury? Is he going to be on the bench, or is he going to be, what's going to be the situation? Does anyone know the extent of it? Aaron says, maybe I'm hoping for Shaw to start. I just can't get over the mistake that Burn, which is why he deserves to be dropped. And he also plays on the Wednesday, and he does need a rest too. That's a good call. That's a good call, actually. Burn will play. Johnny says, Burn will play. He always plays. He is starting to change it up a bit now, but Howe's weakness has been unwillingness to rotate enough. He's beginning to do that more. He's certainly beginning to do that more. I think he did a little bit too much of Elanga, to be honest. Johnny says, I watched a few podcasts today, and even the Burnley fans are expecting a thumping. Hopefully we deliver that to them. Aaron says, watch Pete Pope miraculously be fit, and starting just turns up in an arms embrace and takes it and off and starts in a goal. Johnny says, Johnny says, I think Howe would put BDB in a goal rather than drop him. He likes him that much. Yeah, I think I saw something from, I don't know what that is, Northman Wisdom. I don't know what that's all about. Uh, Johnny says Ramsdale, Hall, Burn, Chow, Livramento, Bruno, Ramsey, Barnes, Elanga, Voldemort. I think you guys got the same lineup there. Yeah. And I don't think Tonali gets risked either way because we have Champions League game midweek. Maybe he makes the bench at most, but I would give him the game off. I'd agree. Tonali has a knock and it's rated at 75% chance of playing. Okay. Yeah. So if we can rotate, we can. There's no point in playing him if we don't need to. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let me, if you're wondering why I haven't set this up earlier in terms of like the game, whenever I do set up JLA, this is the JLA tactics board. Sometimes when it is not used, what am I doing? Elanga. I'm thinking of Elanga. When I set it up early and I haven't used it, it just resets. So there's no point in setting up early. Essentially, is what I'm saying. So I have to just do it while I've got you guys on it. But at least you guys get to see it. I really like this board as well. So let's see. So yeah, so they've got the 4-4-2. Sometimes it goes into 4-2-3-1 set up for Burnley. If anyone knows the Burnley, so you got Hartman on the left. Someone said Edwards plays. Is Edwards there? Joe Worrell, Twenzabi. It'd be interesting to see if he plays actually, Twenzabi. Okochukwu could play. Be really interesting to see who plays for them. Let me know who you guys think plays for Burnley. They got Ogochukwu on the bench here, Twenzabi on the bench as well. I can't see Edwards on here for some reason. Warren Williams, yeah, Marcus Edwards is there. So let me know if you guys think these guys play. But at the moment, I'll leave them on the bench for now. So let's see for Newcastle. I'm gonna talk about what it looked like of Wissa first, and then we'll kind of do the conventional thinking as well. But it'll be good to see. I'll be really, really keen to see if we see this lineup. Premier League, Newcastle. Here we go. All right, so yeah, I let me get the bench ready as well. So Botman's, Trippier, Pope are all out. Fabian's available. Gordon is available. Anthony Elanga's available. Ruddy will probably be on the bench as well. Bruno Guimeraes, Ramsey. I think Bruno plays in this game as well. Joe Willock as well. And Kraft is injured as well. I feel like there's more. Who else am I missing out? Kraft, Gillespie, Thompson, Munda, Young. Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else I'm missing out for the bench. Let me know, guys. Yeah. All right. So for me, Wissa. That's the guy. Been talking about him all this time. He's on my thumbnail. And I haven't even included him. Where is he? Let me know, guys, if Wissa was to start, how do you think he would? Where do you see him starting? Come on, where's Wissa? Did we not have no Wissa on this game? Not on this game, on this thing. Trippier, Pope, Lascelles, Gordon, Shaw, Gillespie, Thompson, Munda, Neve. Where's Wissa? Have I already chosen him? Ruddy, Elanga, Gordon, Shaw. Come on, guys. They don't have Wissa. They usually do. Or am I missing him? Can you guys see him? Su Young, Munda, Thompson, Ashby, Gillespie, Craft, Shaw, Gordon, Lascelles, Botman. I might have to create Wissa on this. Uh, Custom players, even though it shouldn't be a custom player. Add a custom player. Add custom. You're going to see me do this live. I haven't even done this before. Add a custom player for Newcastle. Add a player. Oh, here we go. Forward, Wissa. He's got a number 9 shirt. Here we go. It's not like them. So I'm hoping this happens. I won't lie to you guys. I'm hoping he starts. Now, there's different ways we can use Wissa as well. I think it changes for us because we know that he's versatile. He can play in any of the front three positions, centrally, left, or right, though you do want to see him playing centrally. And the key strengths that he will have is the ability to play in behind, his short runs, Fox in the box as well, very, very clinical in the box. But it's also his ability to play either as a supporting striker or as a number 9, in and around another target man as well, or even be the target man himself. I think he adds that level of versatility and dynamism to our play. And some of you guys unfairly have been saying, no, we could create more clear-cut chances, or at least do more of the chance that we have. I think Wissa is definitely the man for that. And in this lineup, I'll take off Murphy and have Wissa playing. And you could actually have it as, now I've got it in a 4-3-3 still. And obviously you see Woltemade on the right here, but I think when we're in a 4-4-2 shape, you'll see Wissa and Woltemade up together, or Woltemade dropping in kind of in an AM false 9 role as well. So he's not going to be like a Gordon Ilanga type of role, kind of running down the flanks and trying to cover Livramento. I don't think we're going to see that. That's not what I'm saying. But this is why I think the Burnley game is going to be a good opportunity, because we're going to have a lot of the ball. There's going to be a lot of low blocks as well, and especially in tight spaces. Wissa isn't as good in tight spaces, but he's very good at stretching the play, and it's good to have that availability. So I'm going to just see how that could work and kind of see what we're saying. Now, I do think Barnes could be rotated. He's now played 3-4 games in a row, possibly. He had a little bit less impact against who is it? Against who did we just play? Tottenham. Could that be a bit of fatigue, a little bit of tiredness, or just the game as well? Or could we add something different? And Gordon, to me, showed a willingness to add something different. I think maybe it could be a good chance to add Gordon in. And some of you guys mentioned, obviously, us going to Germany to play Leverkusen. Could, rather than just start, having a warm-up, not a warm-up game, but at least, having a game before the Champions League game for Gordon could be a good thing. And really, maybe apart from Ilanga, but this front three could be very much seen as a starting lineup for us, in what we're doing. So that's how you get the ball with the player. I was wondering, how can I show the player with the ball? Okay, excellent. Now I know. Before, I couldn't drag the ball with the players always by himself. So I'm going to show how I think it could work out, and why Wissa could start, at least get 60 minutes in and be rotated out, for instance. And anyway, let's see how it works, right? So I do see a rotation on the left hand side between Gordon and Barnes. And look, you guys are right. You guys will probably be right. It'll probably be Ilanga instead of Wissa, but I wanted to see how this plays out. Now, Tonali is obviously 75% fit. And again, I think you guys are right. I think, you know, why risk him if we don't have to? Who do we play instead of him? Um, Bruno Guimeraes. I wonder though, does Joe Linton play? Because there's a lot of talk about can Joe Linton play 3 games in a row. I don't think he can, and I think that's why he's been rotated before. So I do see another possible rotation with Joe Linton as well. So there could be more changes. Is this a game for Ramsey as opposed to Joe Willock? I think it is. I think it is. And I think this is a very good opportunity to see. I think this midfield of Ramsey, Guimeraes, and Miley, we're talking about technical players, creative players. This is an opportunity to see. This is a midfield, you definitely back to keep the possession and keep the ball. If anything, it maybe Tonali is missing out of that as well. But this is a possession-based midfield, I think. And if you add even Woltemade, who'll probably be dropping in at times and holding it, you can see a situation where we keep a hold of the ball and we have the option of Gordon and Wissa either pressing up front together or being the players who can run in behind as well. And then you've got obviously the possession of our midfield. I think our back line now, as you guys said, does Burn play or do you put Shaw in there? Burnley aren't a big physical team, right? I would want to see Burn rested. I wonder if Howe does that, in my opinion, and puts Shaw in there as well. He was decent at left back as well. You could even see Chow rested, though. I hope that doesn't happen. He's enjoying his football at the moment. He's playing really, really well. But we do have to keep an eye out for that. I've made quite a few changes. I didn't expect that. So I've got Shaw for Burn. I've got Wissa for Murphy. I've got Ramsey for Joe Linton. And I've got Gordon for Barnes. So I think I've made 4 changes. So I've rotated the team 4 times over. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a balanced team? Do you rate it? Let me know what you guys' thoughts are, and I'll show you my thoughts on what how it could work in a moment. Aaron says, I wouldn't be surprised if Burns starts at left back with a few of the rest in the hall to get midweek. Maybe even Howe goes Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, the match, Johnny says, the match before a trip to Germany, options open. Ramsey may even get a game. I've put him in my lineup. Aaron says, I do think Edwards plays. Another player to watch out for is Florentino Luis, a very exceptional talent who, in my opinion, thought would have been destined for bigger things than Burnley. An exception number 6. I'll keep a lookout for him. Aaron says, if Wissa starts, in my opinion, he has to start right wing. I've got him on the right wing. Playing centrally. He's played before and plays inside form in a 4-4-2. Yep, that's what I've got him next to Gordon. I personally like that. Johnny says everything is positive, but we will be back involved. But we will be back involved when we think he's able to contribute to the group and has a minimal chance of injury. He's still a little bit away. What's the statement on Monday? Yes. Aaron says, I disagree with your assumption on Barnes. I thought he was the best player in the first 45, trying things and got the beating of Porro. He definitely had a good game. No, I wasn't saying he wasn't have a good game. Maybe not as good a game as he had against City or Everton, maybe. And he's played 4 games in a row. He hasn't played this amount of games in a row so many times. You could be right. He plays. I think it's an opportunity for Howe to rotate. He might take that opportunity, is what I think. But so if I made it sound like Barnes had it was awful, that certainly wasn't my intention. Wobojo, good to see you, sir, and God bless you. Wobojo says Tonali should not be risked if he's not 100% fit. Absolutely. And ready. Season is long. We aren't even halfway through there yet. I don't get the sense of doom and urgency comes from. Absolutely. I agree. Wobojog says, Need Barnes for my FPL. Can't be messing around with the phase of this the phase of the season. All right, so this is how it could work. Let me know what you Wobajok and others who haven't had a chance here. Let me know what your starting lineup would be. Like I said, I've got Gordon. I've got we've got options here: a 4-3-3 or a drop in where you kind of in a 4-3-3 it will look like this. But obviously, you're not going to see Voltemade doing the conventional running back and stuff like that. When we go into a 4-4-2, you're going to see him join the back four like this with Wissa and Gordon like that. Very much like this, joining Miley and Bruno as well. If we're having to defend, so let me just start, for instance, of what it would be like if Burnley were on the ball. It would be probably Bruno, Miley, Voltemade, Ramsey with Gordon and Wissa at the front together defending, or even swapping. You might still see Ramsey dropping in like this, with Volta coming up like this with Wissa. Probably even better, actually, Voltemade and Wissa in terms of like a 4-4-2 or the other way around, Gordon and others. So if Burnley have the ball and we're having to defend, oh, that was a zooming in. Here we go. Oh, not Dubravka. I'm going to bring Dubravka back a bit. So it's not going to be like that totally, but Dubravka's here. Love to see how they are. Walker, Chouameni, Fleming. And they don't really fully do it like this. They kind of did it as I did against Chelsea. When they look out for this Louise gentleman. We, of course, like to kind of have... And with Ramsdale, again, super duper weapon with Ramsdale. There with the ball. So we know we typically like to go into a 4-5-1. So what you might see, or a 4, I like to see us in a 4-4-2 out of possession. So like I said, you got Wissa. So even if you got Fleming, maybe here, Foster, Cullen, maybe Chiwona a little bit further up. It'd be interesting to see how they set up. But what I'd like to see is, so even if we go in a 4-4-2, flat, Ramsey, Gordon like this. So instead of the typical Voltemade by himself chasing down 3 guys for a ball, what you would have instead is Voltemade joined by Wissa, kind of, kind of engaging like this. And what allows us Bruno, Ramsey, and Gordon to kind of engage Brighton's back four like this. Obviously, we have to look out for the overloads on the left, as well with Jaden Anthony, Miley being able there to support Livramento on the right. But what really, really helps is having 2 men pressing together rather than the one man we have to buy them themselves. So even if we say Voltemade wins the ball back, we know that he generally doesn't have the pace to kind of, outrun most defenders. But with Wissa, he's got a guy that can, and he's got a guy that's very, very deadly, especially when he gets into that back line. So, maybe we do defend in that 4-4-2 rather than in the typical, but we do have the option of defending in a 4-5-1. Maybe Wissa drops in behind the folks here. So even if Voltemade is chasing the ball by himself, should the ball break, they get the ball into our midfield, should the ball break, Anthony gets dispossessed by Livramento, what you'll see is, as you always see sometimes, you see Voltemade dropping in like this. Then what you'll see is your Mileys, your Brunos, Wissas, Gordons, maybe even Bruno kind of maybe drops in. Maybe Miley here. Voltemade started going up a little bit more like this. But what it gives you the opportunity is here, the ball's played up. You've got Voltemade and you've got 2 really, really players at all times with a lot of pace, challenging the back line of Burnley. I think that gives us a lot of options as well. You kind of get that chance to break them down as well. And we're speaking of breaking teams down. Let's see them in a low block. Before we actually see them in a low block, I don't expect, if we're playing out as well. I'm going to read the chats in a moment because there's a few people chat as well, a few chats to read, which is good. I don't know how Burnley are going to press. If anybody knows, I'll be surprised if they go man for man from us. I think that would be death by a thousand paper cuts if they if they choose to kind of go man for man. I just don't see that as a wise thing to do. Um, what you will see though is us having maybe a double pivot, Ramsey playing a little bit higher on the left, which allows Gordon to squeeze in a little bit. Either Voltemade and Whistle like this. It's so good to see Voltemade actually because with two really fast players around him. But let me just see what you guys are saying. So it gives Ramsdale options. You know Ramsdale's good at the ball, so you know he can carry it out himself. I'm sure some of you have noticed teams have become a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit resistant to kind of press us because we're so good at the ball. Because even if you get the Fleming, who's whether it's Fleming or Luis trying to kind of stop the ball coming in, Ramsdale's so good at, you know, you get Voltemade dropping in like this. So even if they press Miley and block, what you call it, Bruno, Ramsdale is good at getting these balls in through the channels like this. You know, you get Voltemade dropping in, maybe play. You know, he's able to turn a Cullen, and then you get this problem where you don't want, if you're Burnley, either Gordon and Whistle on either side, Voltemade turning with those type of options, or even Ramsey then making a run on the other side like this, and you get caught out. You know, so I do see Burnley going into kind of a mid-block situation where they kind of, if anything, fall back a little bit. You see Walker here, Chiwona, Fleming staying here, Cullen and Louise in a 4-4-2, Foster, Cullen like this. I'm going to read the chats in a moment. So maybe Fleming, Cullen, Anthony like this, like they did against Chelsea. Someone screening here like that. But again, when Ramsdale becomes that almost like next outfield player, it allows even our fullbacks to push up a little bit, depending where we want to go. Even Ramsdale to push up a little bit as well, and because of Ramsdale's ability to play the ball in through the channels, it causes all sorts of problems. It allows Voltemade to drop in and join in as well like this, and allowed to turn onto Miley. I think that's an option. Though again, maybe Voltemade staying up front. So if the ball does go long, you get in a position where he kind of any knock-ons to either a Wissa or Gordon. I really like this. I kind of fall in love with this idea of having Wissa and Gordon on either side of Voltemade. I think that could really allow us to stretch the play as well. So don't always have to play out from the back, which we probably will do a lot of the times. I see that happening. But with Wissa and Gordon on either side of Voltemade, I think that could be really, really deadly. But we're going to show ourselves in a how we play in a low block in a moment. But let me read the chats before we do that and see what you guys are saying. Aaron says, maybe how goes Willock Ramsey on the left with a view of interchanges. He could, but I think the best interchanges happen with Ramsey and Gordon and Voltemade. And he has the option to do that as well. But yeah, Johnny says, definitely shouldn't risk Tonali at the moment. I can't understand the fee for Ramsey considering how obviously doesn't fancy him. I think he does. I think he very much does. I think we're going to see the best of, we haven't seen the best of Ramsey. Give it time. Give it time. Johnny says, let's be fair, most of our bench would get into the Burnley starting lineup. Rotation is a must with two huge matches after this. Yeah, I agree. I think win is a must. We have to get the points no matter what. Aaron says, I do like that 4-3-1-2 diamond with Voltemade behind the pacey Gordon and Wissa. It looks like it's a tasty, isn't it? It's a very, very tasty way of lineup. Honestly, I wonder if Hal will be able to resist that. Wilbur says, if Burnley sit in, then surely it suits Barnes more than Gordon, as Gordon needs space to run into. Same applies for Murphy and Ilanga. Don't think Wissa should start. Maybe come on in the 15, 20 minutes. That's a good. So I don't know if you saw earlier, Warburg. I do. In fact, we're going to talk about the low block in a moment. I'm gonna bookmark that. But Warburg, I think you make a very, very good point. I do think you make a very good point. Johnny says, "What if Howe starts with Gordon up front again? We know it doesn't work, but Eddie doesn't. But Eddie doesn't. I think Eddie does. I think what works. We know what doesn't work with Gordon, but what does work with Gordon is his ability to press, and that stops. That prevents a whole heap of problems for us if teams try to play centrally. In my opinion, but I don't think he needs to do that when he's got Voltemade and Wissa fit." So let's talk about the low block, because obviously we've all been talking about low block. Let me know what you guys think, and this is why I still think that this is why I'm still tempted by the Voltemade Wissa thing, and why it's a possibility. And like I said, I'm going off the track record of, obviously he's had two indoor games, two 90-minute indoor games. I know they're different to out, on the pitch, but it's two 90 indoor games. I don't think it's too dissimilar to what what's his name, Livramento did, and when Livramento came in starting, and like I said, I said it before, it could be comparing apples and oranges, comparing Wissa and Livramento. One is younger in Livramento and knows the system better, but I just wonder if there's any game for Eddie Howe to, I say experiment, but at least to start to kind of to if Wissa can do 50, 60 minutes, I don't see why hold him back, right? So okay, so let's see. This is probably going to be the situation most of the game, right? With Newcastle on the ball. Now, the blessing that we have is that we've got really good centre backs on the ball with Shah and Chow in this situation. It could very much be Burn. Either way, what I'm going to do is, so let's see how it could work. So Livramento. So let's start off with, say for instance, we want to work down the left hand side, right? And this is Burnley in a 4-4-2. What is likely to happen is Burnley go into a 5-3-2, probably, where they have three centre backs like this. So let me see. Who am I missing? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and I've got like 5 at the back here, or a 5-4-1. A 5-4-1. They get really deep. They want to prevent our overloads. So let's say why I think so. We mentioned Gordon, not the best in tight spaces, but this is where the blessing of having Hall back really, really helps us, right? So, and it works in one of two ways, and this is how we saw it work against Tottenham as well. Well, you get, for instance, Ramsey, and it depends how we want to do this. You can have Ramsey on the outside instead, which allows Gordon to drop in, and you see Bruno getting into these type of situations. With Voltemade now, with his ability now to be able to drag players with him, he's able to now create space just by his presence alone, right? Even if it's one or two. You see Voltemade here being able to drag players with him, and that's where the space starts creating. So even in this situation where, hide this, let me use the Vetro path. Let me see if I'm still good at this. So Ramsey, Hall, Bruno, Gordon, back to Ramsey. Okay, so let me take this off. So, does it work? Okay, brilliant. But it was better when it was doing is it this one? Player field view? No. Vetro path? No. Vector space. Let me use vector space. Vector space, Hall, No, why is it not working? Ramsey. Oh, it is working. Gordon and Bruno. All right, so let me take this off. So, say you want to play that down the left hand side. We have the ability of Voltemade now being able to drag centre backs with him and causing this and and this is where the space is created. So who has the option as he did against what do you call it? And this is where you're going to see an aging Walker. Still got a bit of pace, but an aging Walker. You might probably want to see Ramsey here actually, and Gordon on the outside against an aging Walker, and Ramsey maybe tucking in with Voltemade creating the space. What you want to be able to do is have Hall here, getting the ball out wide. So with Hall, you got an option here. If you're Chuana, right, you either let Hall continue to progress, while you try to support Walker. But what happens is you allow the likes of Bruno to have space and allow other midfielders and to the likes of Miley to get in there, maybe Wissa or Voltemade drop in. You start creating all sorts of headaches yourself by allowing the ball to still progress. Instead, what you're going to have to do is, oh, I didn't move with Miley. That's so annoying. Oh, now it is. Good. Or you're going to be Chuan and you're going to have to approach Hall with it. And you know Hall's got that ability. Get the ball out wide as you saw against Tottenham. And now because of Ramsey tucking in, Anthony either has a choice of going with Bruno, continuing to hold on to where Bruno is, or having to follow Ramsey, who's now tucked in with Wissa and with Ramsey. And you want to get this situation. Gordon one-on-one with Walker, an aging Walker. If Walker and this is the part where you do want to see Gordon. You do want to see Gordon instead of Ramsey, instead of Barnes, because of his ability to take on his man on that wing and driving at Walker and creating that ability to be able to then also to be able to cut in. You see Ramsey, Voltemade, dragging players with him, being in a situation where you can drag players with him, and Wissa being a pest, going in on the side as well. Livramento joining the pass. So even if it's played back as it was against Tottenham, this is what happened. Voltemade dragged the centre backs with him, and you see Gordon doing these type of cutbacks to Voltemade, who then passes it back to Bruno. You see Bruno scoring that way, or even just passing it across now, where you have Wissa and the likes of Wissa. Voltemade still causing the problem. So even in tight spaces, you can create space by doing that if you want Gordon. You have also the choice of Ramsey, who's pretty good in tight spaces himself, occupying the player. So even if you have Ramsey on the outside, Gordon tucking in, Voltemade staying where he's at. Let me place these players behind them. Ekdal, Fleming, Wissa. You have Gordon tucking in instead. Hall plays the ball out to Ramsey. And remember, Hall doesn't stand still either. Hall makes the runs himself. So Walker's either Chuana continues to also run and create spaces where it allows them create spaces here. Voltemade creates here space for Guimeraes. Either way, someone's got to follow Hall. If Chuana doesn't follow Hall, you then got Ramsey with the choice of Hall running in, Walker creating space, getting the ball out to Gordon, and again the cutbacks, or kind of getting into these 1v1 situations with an Ekdal or an Anthony, and getting himself into the box. Even if Hall stays where he's at, you still got a choice of Ramsey getting in, Chuana here, Gordon tucking in with Voltemade dragging centre backs with him and creating space for Gordon. So even if Ramsey doesn't want to take on Walker on the outside, which he probably doesn't, you still have Bruno here. You might have Chuana here or Hall threatening to do at least doing the overlap himself, either forcing Walker Walker has a choice of either following him or staying where he's at, where Ramsey can still play the balls in the back. With Hall now there, coming in on the back, with Gordon now in the box, Voltemade in the box, Wissa in the box. I just see there's a lot more for Newcastle to be able to create. And you can do the same thing on the left-hand side as well. I'm going to show on the right hand side as well. I'm going to show that in a moment. Let me see if you guys are saying anything in the chat. It's a shame I can't see the chat when I'm on JLA. It's just a different screen totally, but that's okay. There's nobody in the chat. But yeah, I do think we can break down Burnley is even when they are, and where Burnley suffer is, especially in this final third. Again, us pressing down the right hand side. I think Wissa can be very, very important. Livramento pushing back. So let me see. Vector space. Miley. No, take this off. Miley. Here we go. Livramento. Wissa. Even Woltemade. I'll use even Woltemade in this situation. Going down the right hand side, either Miley coming in again with Bruno joining as he always does, getting that ball, and the whole idea is to be able to try and create triangles. Woltemade again pinning the centre backs with him, creating that space, allowing the likes of Bruno to come in. So even it's either you got the choice of Livramento on the right hand side, either running with the ball, or you're probably going to see Wissa tucking in like this. Woltemade taking up space with the centre backs, Bruno dropping into that half space with the option of Woltemade or Wissa. Even if he plays it off to Woltemade, you know Woltemade will see that run to Wissa, and or Wissa on the right hand side, or playing it straight to Wissa and kind of creating these type of situations. So there's more than one way, in my opinion, to break down Burnley. But let me know what you guys think. There's a lot in this. I know a lot of you think that Wissa isn't going to start. You're probably about 70, 80% right, but I would love to see it. Love to see it. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are. All right, so guys, let's send in your predictions. What do you think the scoreline is going to be as we conclude the show? We've gone past midnight already, but bless you all that have been able to stay up with me. Right, so guys, it's a must-win game. It's a must-win game. We saw all the metrics for Burnley. They are, very much relegation zone for goals conceded by XG, possession, winning the ball in the final thirds, tackling, defending, whether it's defensive stats or offensive stats. They're all in the low metrics for these stats. Newcastle, they've lost their last 5 games. They've lost 8 out of their last 10 games. They're playing away at St. James's Park, where we've beat Man City. We beat Man City, for instance. I was going to say Tottenham. We should have beat Tottenham. But I think our last 4 performances, maybe not all the results, but our last 4 performances, which I include Marseille in that, I include Tottenham in that, have been very, very, very good. And if anything, having 2-3 games a week has been a blessing when we've been able to continue that momentum a lot more. And I do think we have the capability to break down the team. Now, you're probably right, most of you, 78%, that Wissa doesn't start. And in the positions that I've talked about, I think it should be Elanga if it's not Wissa. But I really, as Aaron says, that 4-3-1-2 kind of, it's really, really good. Whether we're kind of low blocking or we're playing out from the back, or we're trying to catch the team in transition. That Woltemade Wissa combination, Woltemade Wissa and Gordon combination, could be absolutely lethal. Or Barnes. But the good thing is that we have a very strong bench. It's not even clear who's going to start, even from our centre back situation as well. But send in your scores. Aaron says, Aaron's going for a 2-1 win. It's either that or a frustrating 1-1 draw. Wow, Aaron. You're not backing. And I haven't even mentioned set pieces. Like, Burnley come across as a very small team to me. Like, I see us taking a lot of advantage over them in the set piece situations. For me, guys, I'm going for a. I think we can do a clean sheet. I'm gonna go for a 4-0. a 4-0 Newcastle victory with a Voltemade, Wissa, a goal, 2 each. But I think we'll win 4-0 and get another clean sheet on the board. That'll be really, really, really good. But guys, you guys have been an absolute blessing. You saw us review the Tottenham game. A few things to be frustrated about, especially the 2 goals we conceded. But there's a lot of things to be still happy about in terms of our overall performance. We were absolutely dominant in most metrics, first and second half. Even though in the second half things changed a little bit, as we saw, we were still fairly dominant as well. And I think we deserved to win that game. We didn't either way. We did the review for the Burnley game, broke down their team, saw how they played against Chelsea, looked at their metrics, and we did the tactical breakdown of the game itself. Whether us on the ball, them on the ball, catch them in transitions, playing out from the back, breaking that low block. I've pushed the envelope, and I think Wissa starts. I would love for Wissa to start. Even if he doesn't, we still got options over it's in the Lango or not. We'll probably see Bruno coming back into the fold. I'd love to see a midfield of Bruno, Ramsey, and Miley. I'm really, really, really keen to see that midfield and how it works. That'd be a really, really to see. It's a technical midfield, a far more technical midfield, a far more possession-based midfield, and we'll see how we react to that. So I'm really keen. So that's what I'm going for, a 4-0 victory. And thanks, guys, for the ones that sent your victory. Aaron says, I'd love to see a 4-0, hoping you're right, Philip. I hope I'm right too. I didn't get to talk about transfers this one, but I'm going to start doing transfer shows as we in the next week or so, because it's heating up. A lot of conversations. Lamine Kamara is on the agenda, as well as other midfielders, and James Trafford, Miley possibly going out on loan. Plus, we've got a whole new transfer strategy. As you know, I think it's probably the same strategy, but I need to read up a little bit from Wilson. But also, obviously, we've got a new financial regulations of, I think it's SCA. How will that work with our financial spending? So, we've got a lot of that to go forward to. So, I'm going to dedicate a full show to that. But as always, guys, you've been absolutely brilliant. Staying up with me for over 2 hours. But how are the lads? I know I'm going for a win, and it's been absolutely magnificent talking to you guys. Look after yourselves, and as always, folks, God bless.